Welcome to the Daily DLP. I'm your host, Ash Thompson, and today I'm finally finishing off my preview of the Rams, this time on the defensive side. Let's get it on! Alright, I kinda joked at the end of yesterday's episode that this was going to be me saying stop Aaron Donald over and over again in different ways for 15 minutes, and I did consider just going to Google Translate and doing my best to say it in every language that humanity has. But while that would make me laugh a lot, it's probably not what you came here for, and it would probably not do well in terms of the number of views we would have. So, instead, I guess I'll go into a little more detail, but that is point one all day. The Rams, you need to stop Aaron Donald. Their defense is an interesting one. Over the course of the 17-game 2023 season, the results were basically right in the middle of the league in terms of yards, scoring, against the pass, against the run, though they were a little better against the run than they were against the pass. So they're kind of like a less extreme version of the Lions in that way. This isn't the defense you think of when you think of the Rams. It's not a squad defined by highly paid superstars, as we're used to seeing. Like, Bobby Wagner's not here. They didn't acquire a top-tier pass rusher at the deadline. No Jalen Ramsey. This is not that. This team is starting players like Kobe Turner, Michael Hecht, Byron Young. They're not exactly household names, but every one of those guys had at least 6 sacks. And Turner, in some years, he would be Defensive Rookie of the Year without a question. And he was a third rounder that they took this year. He led the team with 9 sacks, and that's a team with Aaron Donald on it. So there you go. This isn't a defense that was built by saying F them picks. And this defense does have some teeth that the Lions need to be concerned about. There are games that the Rams won this year based almost entirely on how well the defense played. And the defense is run by Raheem Morris, who came up in cover 2 defense circles as a secondary coach. That's his claim to fame. He's been a head coach, interim head coach, one of the league's most respected defensive minds is who the Lions are facing this weekend. And yes, as I said at the beginning, the key to stopping this defense is not letting Aaron Donald ruin your day, but teams' efforts to do that have at times resulted in openings for other defenders. Like, Morris is a cover 2 guy, but he's not as afraid of blitzing as most who come from that kind of background. Like, it's not the stop the big play at all costs. It's get to them before they get to you a lot of the time with Raheem Morris. The Rams have the 9th highest blitz rate in the league for 2023. And when you think of a cover 2 team, typically, like someone who likes to stay in that cover 2 shell, that's not normal. Another big change from what you usually think of when you're thinking cover 2 shell defenses is that the Rams kept the 3-4 base that was in place when they hired Morris, which is kind of weird. Usually with the defensive coordinator, you end up switching to a different front. That's the kind of brain Morris has, where he could allow the team to keep something that might not have been his ideal choice and perform rather well with it, let's say. Everyone plays nickel as their actual base defense, but the Lions do load up on heavy personnel sets and force teams to play in base. Like 12 personnel, 13 personnel. The return of Brock Wright to the lineup is a game changer for the Lions in that regard, in that it will allow them to do some things that I think they need to do. In a nickel defense, the Rams apply incredible pressure up the middle without really having to put any effort into it. So while the key is stopping Donald, Kobe Turner has had, like I said, a crazy rookie season beside him, but he plays less in their base defense than he does in their nickel defense typically, as far as a percentage of snaps in both of those cases. So there's nothing you can do to keep Aaron Donald off the field. They're just going to play him as much as he can play. heavy personnel sets leads to more of Bobby Brown and Jonah Williams and less of Kobe Turner. The health of Sam Laporta, and I mean like legitimate health, not can he dress, but can he play and can he play well? Like you can't just have a guy, a tight end as a distraction. That doesn't really work that well. You can't have him just line up and run in a straight line down the sideline and force people to, like, you do still have to deal with that, even if the guy's not, super dynamic and is dealing with some pain. It's not quite the same for the tight ends because they don't have that speed. They do have to block, so on and so forth. The Lions need Laporta on the field to make passing out of 12 personnel dangerous, and that is a massive key in this game, is keeping the Rams in base defense and threatening with the passing game at the same time. They can kind of do it without him, but like Brock Wright and James Mitchell don't strike fear into anyone. They're both fine players, but Laporta has had games this year where he was the focal point of the Lions' passing attack. Keeping the Rams in a heavier formation by fielding heavier heavier offensive formations yourself, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, 21 personnel, 22 personnel. That's the number of running backs and tight ends, respectively. So 12 for one running back, 2 tight ends. It forces the other team to play their base defense rather than nickel in a lot of cases. Anyway, keeping the Rams in that heavier defensive formation by fielding a heavier offensive formation yourself is key number 2. And an important part of that is successfully running the ball when the Rams choose to ignore the fact that you are in 12 personnel. If the Lions get 12 personnel against a nickel defense, that needs to be 6 or 7 yards on the ground immediately. If they can do that, the Rams have to pull out of the nickel to stop the run. And that is like a cheat code. If you can pass the ball out of 12 personnel. If the Rams do march out 2 highly talented 290-pound defensive tackles, the Lions need to have learned the lesson that the Dallas Cowboys tried to teach them. It's not traps and counters that deals with that. It's coming straight at them. It's firing off the ball. It's hitting them in the mouth. There will be at least 1 3rd and 7 or more where the Lions run the ball out of shotgun against a lighter defensive formation and get it, because that's something they seem to do pretty much once a game. But that can't be the default, if you know what I mean. Like, line up, hit them in the face. That is how you need to deal with this Rams defensive line. In the secondary, there's a good chance that the Rams' best defensive back, safety Jordan Fuller, isn't going to play. And if that's the case, that puts Russ Yeast, John Johnson, and Jason Taylor directly in the crosshairs of the Lions' passing game, or it should. There have been plenty of times this year when Ben Johnson has combined pre-snap motion and route concepts to put safeties in extreme conflict mentally, and 2 of those guys I just listed are safeties from the 7th round in the last 2 drafts. And the other one is a veteran trying to reclaim his career after a really bad stint with another team. The Lions have lots of weapons in the passing game and can take advantage of a safety's mistakes. This is another spot where if they have Sam Laporta, this all gets much easier, because this is what he is designed to do, basically, in the passing game. Just make safeties, make bad decisions. Like, we all know Goff doesn't have that crazy arm that just creates big plays, and yet the Lions have. They're in the top 5 in terms of passing big plays this season. Like, over 20 yards, they have been in the top 5 all year, and that's because of the mind-blowing genius of Ben Johnson. He creates opportunities for explosive plays by basically leaning on mid-level safeties with all of the Lions' weight, if that makes sense. He's been great at it all year, and it really needs to happen this weekend. That's why keeping those heavy formations is so important. You can't threaten a safety with your quarterback under intense pressure. And if the Rams are running NASCAR, there's a pretty good chance Goff will be under pressure. And we all have come to terms with the fact that the Lions passing game success is predicated on not being forced to pass the ball, right? Like when it's 3rd and 10, none of us are super happy about that. We get uncomfortable. We get that feeling in our stomach, like this is going to be the end of the drive every time it's 3rd and 10. Have we all kind of come around on that? Because the Lions have only converted 30% of their 3rd and 7 or longer attempts this year. Sure, they go forward on 4th down more than a lot of teams in the league, but reliance on making 4th down conversions is a high-stakes gamble. And this is the point where the spreadsheet mafia come after me saying that it's actually not. Yes, I know you guys don't actually use spreadsheets, but knowing how to use R and Python isn't the superpower you think it is either. My point is that it's better to be dealing with 2nd and 7 than 3rd and 7 if you are the Detroit Lions. And if you're going to argue me against that, you're just wrong. On 2nd and long, the Lions complete a higher percentage of their passes and complete them for a higher percentage of 1st downs. On 2nd and long, the Lions have options. On 3rd and long, they'll catch someone by surprise once in a while with a run, but for the most part, they're forced to throw the ball. And when the Lions are forced to throw the ball, that means Aaron Donald and Kobe Turner coming up the middle. And the Lions need to avoid that, which means avoiding 3rd and long. And to do that, you generally need to produce yardage on 1st down. Luckily, the Lions are really good at that. Running the ball, they got 5.7 yards per attempt on 1st and 10. Passing, they got 8.8 yards per attempt. Those are the highest number they achieved on any down and distance listed by Pro Football Reference. They ran the ball only 8 more times than they passed it because of that level of success. The Rams defense didn't allow that level of success this year. They only allowed 4.3 yards per carry and 7.5 yards per pass, which basically, which of those 2 sets of numbers you see closer results towards on Sunday is probably going to determine how many points the Lions end up with. And this is a marathon for the Lions offense. Like, the chances are the Rams are going to score a few points on Sunday. The Lions need to keep pace. So your keys here for this game: 1st down success rate, gain 4+ yards. Protect Goff well enough to threaten the safeties, who are the weakness of this defense. Use heavy formations to limit the effectiveness of the Rams' 2 great undersized interior defensive linemen. Sam Laporta makes that a much easier thing to do if he's good to go, because he is a person who can put you in heavy formations and also threaten the safeties. He does both of those things. Lions don't really have anyone else that does both of those things. Don't get fancy in the run game, just beat them up. And if all those things are happening, you're going to see a lot of points from the Lions on Sunday. See you on the postgame show Sunday night. Hopefully we're all celebrating.